Do I have to?
Dude, you've been putting this review off since January. I think you owe it to your fans.
But everyone said their piece. I don't think I should.
Voice, you managed to bring up things no one else would think of. You'll totally do this episode justice. I know it.
Well, if everyone really wants to know my opinions on this episode, I'll do it. Hello, everypony. I'm the voice of reason.
And I'm Intruder Eliora.
And
Rarity
Takes Manhattan is the most overrated episode of the show, if not the worst Rarity episode.
I beg your pardon?
Well, here's 4 reasons why. Number 4, Coco Pamel. Sorry to say, I'm not on the Coco's adorable bandwagon. My problem with her is she doesn't get enough screen time to really grasp her character. It's the same thing with Gilda. Again, I fucking love Gilda, but her backstory was only just touched on. Then again, her backstory was in the first act, while Coco didn't appear until halfway through the second. And we don't see her again until the end of the third. I get the idea of her character, as some pony who gives in to being taken advantage of until some pony else shows her the other side. But the fact she doesn't interact with Rarity at all until she gives her the key in the third act hinders her progression as a keybringer. Speaking of the third act, number 3, the resolution with Coco. I'm a little unsure about the episode's resolution with how they handled the Coco situation. Not the Rainbow Spool thing, that was fine. Rather, Rarity giving her the costuming job for the director of Hitty on the Hills. Isn't that a little problematic? Rarity is just giving her job away to someone she just met not one day ago, and you're just gonna give your recommendation to the director the fact that you barely know her. Wouldn't it make more sense for Rarity to hire Coco at her boutique since the recommendation wouldn't fly over very well? I'm just saying, it would have been a greater showing of generosity if she offered a job to Coco after Rarity stays in Manhattan for a bit. And speaking of generosity, number 2, generosity. Yeah, I'm in the minority when it comes to this song. Everyone I know says it rivals Are the Dress. I think it's up there with You Gotta Share and This Is Our Big Night as one of the worst. When listening to Generosity, it feels overworded and clunky. It almost sounds like Rarity is singing disjointedly at times. And the number 1 thing I don't like about this episode, pacing! Good gravy, the pacing in this episode was awful. In fact, most of my problems stem from the pacing of the episode. First act, including the song, was just wasted time until we got to the actual plot in the second act of the episode. Rarity just singing about how generous she is pretty much wasted the morning away until she made it to Fashion Week. Speaking of Fashion Week, we should probably call that Fashion Weekend, seeing how many days were actually shown. No joke, I thought the day of her run-through appointment was the same day as the time she arrived for the show late. That is how bad that transition was. Maybe if the episode focused on the element being taken advantage of plot earlier, I wouldn't have had so much of a problem with how the actions unfolded.
Voice, come here a sec. I'm not going to fucking do this episode justice, jackass! You've gotta be kidding me with this! First off, Coco Pamel. Her having little interaction with Rarity is a take on learning by observation. Second, the recommendation. I'll agree that outright having her take the job was a bit of a cop-out, but it wasn't like Rarity didn't know full well what she could do. Suri's rip-offs were all made by her in one fucking night. If that doesn't speak to tremendous talent, I don't know what does. As for the pacing, it was fine. Yes, their week seemed short, but there was suitable time between each act to stress just how stressed Rarity was. I'm with you on the song, but still!
Hey, I never said I hated the episode. In fact, there were quite a number of things I enjoyed. Number 5, Generosity. The reprise. As much as I dislike Generosity, I'll admit if not for the first part, you wouldn't have had that beautiful reprise in the third act. It showed how the city changed her in a matter of days, and taking advantage of her friend's generosity turned her into something she didn't want to be, leaving her alone in the rain. And that's something she didn't want to be? Number 4, Suri Polymere. If there's an antagonist I love to hate, it has to be Suri Polymere. Outside of Tabitha St. Germain's acting ability, seriously, I had no idea that was her until the end credits, she makes a perfect foil for her second best pony. A fashion designer who's made it big in the world, not by expanding friendships through generosity, but taking advantage of those kind hearts to move up in the world looking out only for herself. Now, while she doesn't get her comeuppance in the end, I was glad she didn't get away with everything. Number 3, Rarity's conflict. Despite pacing issues, this was a really good conflict for Rarity to be challenged with. The difficulty Rarity is presented pushes her to see the element taken advantage of, and vice versa, taking advantage of her friend's generosity. As Mole stated, While there are ponies who will take advantage of your generosity, you should never, ever let that cause you to abandon your generous spirit. Nothing feels worse than taking advantage of the giving nature of your friends. Number 2, the humor. Yeah, humor was great in this episode. Whether it's Rarity's overdramatic behavior or Rainbow Dash going all meta, the humor propelled this episode into good territory. But the thing that sealed the deal? Number 1, Manehattan itself. I love how Manehattan was portrayed in this episode. The towering skyscrapers, the mostly busy streets, the fact that no pony gives a shit about if you're a princess or not and you have to wait in line for a taxi like the rest. It's really something special to see an urban setting portrayed in MLP that's not in a comic book, especially the great New York City. So even though this episode has its problems, there's still a lot to like about this episode.
Fine. I shall let you remain out of traction. Granted, you like the season finale. Capiche? And let me be very, very clear about that. Traction. Full body cast.
Yes, ma'am. Well, until then, I'm the voice of reason, and I'll see you for the season finale.